Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Rasslin, right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. Now, as I'm sure you're noticing, it's Friday. But more importantly than it being Friday, you know what it is? Listen, I don't rock with the company as much, but you can't deny Wrestlemania weekend is absolutely the wrestling fans weekend. It's a wrestling fan Super Bowl, right? Whether you mess with WWE or not, I've seen it's kind of be a discourse on like threads and on social media about, are you really a wrestling fan if you don't like WrestleMania? And there are a lot of people who don't. Like, some people have drawn the line in the sand when it comes to WrestleMania about, like, I don't rock with WWE at all, so I don't rock with WrestleMania. Hey, if that's how you feel, that's absolutely fine. Hopefully, I actually, as a fan of alternatives, would love to see an alternative big weekend for wrestling fans. Ideally, something like AEW All In, like they had All In at in Dallas last year, felt very WrestleMania-esque, at least for that day. So if we channeled that energy into creating the big show. Will Ospreay actually spoke about that this week regarding next year when WWE is supposed to be in Saudi, about AEW and other indies doing a big weekend show. And I think that's a great idea. Actually, I think that would be a really good idea to do. I think there does need to be an alternative, like I said, an alternative big wrestling weekend. So, but nonetheless, as I stated, it is WrestleMania weekend, ladies and gentlemen. The biggest weekend for wrestling fans. WrestleMania is 2 nights. It's been 2 nights since 2020. So I figured, why not give you 2 days of Talmbout Rasslin? That's right. It is Talmbout Rasslin Day 1. And tomorrow afternoon we'll have Talmbout Rasslin Day 2. And it actually works out perfectly. I did not do a What's Up Wednesday this week. Mainly because I figured I would do this. And there was a lot of other stuff going on, like I've always mentioned before. Scheduling is kind of weird with that. But here we are. Talmbout Rasslin Day 1. The first ever 2-day Talmbout Rasslin, all right? And it works because we have a lot to talk about. And rather than do one super show, we're going to break this down. That's right. Remember when WWE had that 8-hour WrestleMania for WrestleMania 35? That was 2019. I remember that because people were falling asleep at the WrestleMania watch party that I was at. Well, this year, then the following year, they started doing the 2 nights. Well, that's what this is, because there's a whole lot to talk about. And rather than do one super long super show, we're going to break it down into 2 shows. Now, all that being said, thank you for tuning in on this Friday, because I know you weren't expecting to see. This is why you subscribe. This is why you subscribe, because you never know what's going to happen. So, as I always say, make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and this is a perfect example of why you should. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you follow, you leave a rating, you leave a review. Go follow me here on Substack. Go follow me here on YouTube. Go follow me on Spotify. Listen, I'm not even at home, and I thought I would bring it to you, my people. Make sure I get bring it to you, the Black Phoenix Brigade, okay? So thank you all for tuning in. Again, make sure you like, share, subscribe. We're going to break this into sections, okay? Because I have to get my Mania picks, right? But we also got to talk about AEW, because AEW just had a very huge week. See, that's the thing about WrestleMania weekend, that, a rising tide raises all ships, right? So when it's WrestleMania weekend and all eyes are on professional wrestling, all eyes are on WWE, but when it's wrestling in general, everybody eats off of WrestleMania weekend, oddly enough. So I have to get my WrestleMania picks, but I'll do that on tomorrow, on day 2. Today we're going to talk about AEW, because AEW just had their Dynasty pay-per-view on Sunday and a very huge Dynamite and not as huge collision, but a really good show as well. And we're going to discuss all of that. I'm going to try to condense this because it can't be as long as my normal shows. My mic will probably die at some point because I hadn't charged anything, but that's okay. We're going to work this out. Matter of fact, I probably should plug something up now, right? Nonetheless, we're going to work it out. Everything's going to be great. It'll probably change when it does. It's fine. You'll still be able to hear me. Just might be a change in the quality. So be prepared for that. But still going to give you a great show. Now, all that being said, let's talk AEW Dynasty. This was exactly what I actually thought that it would be. Now, my picks were all over the place wrong for the most part, but still was a really good show. Pull my results up. Still was a really good show. Did still feel like kind of what you would imagine kind of a B pay-per-view being, but some of the things that I predicted did not happen at all. But it's okay that it didn't happen because the way things have kind of been playing out so far, I don't know where we're going necessarily. I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to watch. So we're going to talk about, first of all, another thing. When I made my predictions for Dynasty last week, there was only one match on the pre-show, on the 0 hour, and that was Marina Shafir and Alex Windsor. And by the time the show started, and that was on Saturday, for the show to be on Sunday. By the time between the time I recorded that and the time the show started, they had like 4 matches to the pre-show, which is insane. So go figure. And speaking of such, of course, they opened up the 0 hour with Alex Windsor versus Marina Shafir. My prediction, of course, there was Marina Shafir because she needed the win, and promptly she lost. And I'm not really sure what we're doing with Marina Shafir at this point, because like she beats up on all the dudes with the Death Riders, but she loses to all the women. Kind of feels a little interesting. I'm not sure what we're doing there. To be honest, I have no idea what we're doing there, but it is what it is. Next up, very big surprise that happened, possibly prior to the Alex Windsor Marina Shafir match, if I'm not mistaken. Because I don't think it started, but it should have. There was a lot of stuff on this card. But Willow's backstage giving an interview, and she is attacked by someone, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, is that Camille? That's right, Camille is back on the scene for AEW after being gone for 2 years, actually, probably, because she was involved with Mercedes probably before the belt collector stuff started, which was all of 2025, basically. And Mercedes came to the company in what, 24? Yeah, in 24. So that is interesting, to say the least. But great to see her back in the scene. She had a match, and somehow I missed this. I'm not sure why I missed it. I think I was probably still getting food. So did miss that, but still glad to see her back. She had a match against Big Ann. Apparently Willow came out and Camille laid her out again, and they had a match on Dynamite. Yeah, if it was weird because Dynamite and Collision were back to back on Wednesday and Thursday, it kind of runs together. But that definitely was a Dynamite match. Spoiler alert, because I think I'm gonna have to do it kind of this way to keep it succinct. Willow, Camille had a match on Dynamite. Again, great to see Camille back. Camille does seem it seemed like they were a couple of steps off here and there, for the most part, it was a pretty decent match. Willow gets the win, which is to be expected. Willow's kind of reign has kind of been all the people that are kind of coming back to challenge her. We had Jack Perry versus Mark Davis in another match for the national championship. Of course, Jack Perry gets the win. I want to say, was that his first national championship defense, if I'm not mistaken? Big win for him. They keep putting Mark Davis in these really good positions, selling him as a beast, selling him as a monster. Could easily build him up. They kind of have him as a goon in the Don Callis family, but they could easily build him up as a contender, kind of in the same way they've done Kyle Fletcher. So interested to see where that goes as well. But right now he's the one of the big heavy hitters, the monster of the Don Callis family. Even though you have Lance Archer, but again, keep saying everybody dies and everybody around here living, so go figure. And I want to say main event of the 0 hour was Divine Dominion. That is Megan Bain and Lena Cross taking on Hyan, there it is, and Maya World. Of course, a win for Divine Dominion. Just another thing to establish them and their dominance as the tag team champions. Not sure where they're going to go, but there are a lot of teams forming and vying for that tag team contention. So interested to see where that goes as well. Then we have the main card, and we opened up with the Bucks taking on the Don Callis family, Okada and Takeshita. And of course, I don't even remember what my pick was here. I probably said the Bucks. And we would just figure out how to get to Double or Nothing, because it wasn't a stipulation. Don Callis kind of mentioned, like, hey, Takeshita can have a match with Okada if you're on the same page and you defeat the Bucks at Dynasty. I think I probably picked the Bucks anyway because they needed that win, and then we would just kind of figure out another way to get to Double or Nothing with Okada and Takeshita, which of course we did. Lots of miscommunication. They actually just straight out started fighting at some point in the match. Absolutely fantastic match, as you knew it would be, because it's the Bucks and it's Okada and it's Takeshita, and those four deliver every time individually. So you know together it was going to be a banger. But again, the Bucks get the dub. The Bucks are setting up for the Meltzer driver. Takeshita grabs Nick's ankle and then lets it go. Which leads us to now, our Dynamite. Actually, I want to say it was called Collision. Because they didn't address it on Dynamite. They addressed it on Collision last night. You know, they had a chance to watch the tape, figure out what happened, and saw that Takeshita wasn't on the same page. So he's like, but that's okay, you know. You don't have to have the match in Double or Nothing. Okada's like, no, I want the match. And now we have it, Double or Nothing. The first officially announced match for Double or Nothing is Okada versus Takeshita, worth the price of admission all by itself. Because this has been built, and I'm wondering, like, is this the blow-off? Because it doesn't actually feel like the blow-off to the whole thing. It feels like the first actual match in the series, even though the first one was at the Continental Classic. So, we'll see where that goes following, but I think in and of itself, that's going to be a classic. That's price of admission by itself. Easily price of admission by itself. So, let's do some stuff here real quick. There we go. All right. Easily worth the price of admission by itself. That's been building, long-term storytelling that has been building since last year, since Okada first joined the Don Callis family. So that's definitely going to be interesting. Next up, this was very much a surprise. You have Ricochet versus Chris Jericho. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? Ricochet gets the pin. Not only does he win, he beats Jericho with a lion salt, which he now has dubbed the Rico salt. That a great match. Jericho looked good, all things considering. Ricochet made him look like $1 million. He made Ricochet look like $1 million, and that is a huge win for Ricochet. You know, regardless of how you feel about Chris Jericho, Ricochet beating him is a huge win and cannot be denied. Fairly clean. I mean, the man did get involved, but that didn't lead directly to a result. So, I mean, again, another big win. I definitely did not see that coming. Next up, we had Darby Allin versus Andrade. And this is where things start to get interesting. Definitely picked Darby to win. Great match. Some amazing spots. Darby is like not a he's not like a flippy guy per se. He's not like a luchador or like a Bucks or he's trying to think of how to describe him. He's like Mick Foley meets Jeff Hardy. That's probably a good one. Yeah, he's like Jeff Hardy and Mick Foley in like a Rey Mysterio body at best. And like Sting, or maybe Jeff Hardy is still a good solid one. I always felt like there were he's in that range of people, right? That like he would have fit right in with a Raven. He would have fit right in with a Jeff Hardy. He would have fit right in with a Sting. He would have fit right in with a Mick Foley. That match might have been a Mick Foley Darby Allin match. Maybe too hot for TV because they probably would try to kill each other in real life. So again, great match. Andrade is being Andrade. Of course, the stipulation here was that if Darby wins, he gets a shot at MJF. I pick Darby all the time because I figured we were heading towards MJF versus Darby at Double or Nothing for the title. Hold that thought. But again, another great match, another instance of Andrade having another banger, and Darby just kind of he hit that kind of figure 4 roll up thing that he kind of does. I forget what the name of it is now, and stuck the win because Andrade was giving him the work, and Darby just kind of pulled it out in the end. And Andrade shook his hand, raised his hand. Hey, kids got it. That's gonna go a long way. But again, hold that thought. Next up, tag team match for the AEW Tag Team Championships. We had FTR taking on Cage and Cope. And again, did not see this one coming. FTR for the win. I don't know if I can't remember off the top of my head. I really need to write these down so I know for sure. But did not actually anticipate FTR getting the dub here, even though I think the go home math said. So, two things were at odds here. Go home math, because FTR got the upper hand on the last Dynamite before the pay-per-view. Per go home math, Cage and Cope should have won. However, during the first match, Cage and Cope won, also in Canada. So, per the story, FTR basically gets their win back. Now they're 1-1. There'll probably be a third encounter at some point, and whoever's going to win the feud, which will probably be Cage and Cope, will win the titles. So, the go home math versus the booking strategy, typical booking strategy, were kind of at odds. It is which one was going to work, and it turns out that booking strategy took the precedent because FTR gets the dub. It's not over on Collision last night, Cope comes out to cut a promo, basically saying, I'm not done. This isn't about the titles. It's not over. Christian's currently getting checked, but we will take everything from you, yada, yada, yada. So it's not over. Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta came out to attack along with FTR, which brings out the Bucks. They run everybody off. Definitely think we're getting, like I said, definitely think we're getting the FTR, Bucks, Cage and Cope three-way. I'm still thinking Double or Nothing. Maybe they'll hold it off. Maybe there are a couple other things in place. Because maybe you want to do that at All In. That makes sense. I don't know how you could stretch it that long, but that is a match. Though, we've done Bucks and FTR at like 2 All-Ins already. So, not sure you want to do it again. But all right. Next up, we had the Casino Gauntlet match, and I said I could not pick who could win this match, and probably no one else could either. This is like the Rumble of AEW, kind of, sort of, but way more unpredictable a lot of times, because especially depending on what the stake is, it's only dependable according to what the stake is in it. With the TNT Championship being kind of like a mid-card thing, that there's no clear-cut, there's like no real like clear-cut direction there. Like there's never like this person seems to be on the trajectory of winning this title. So it kind of hot potatoes a little bit. You think Kyle Fletcher had it, lost it to Mark Briscoe, who lost it to Tommaso Ciampa, who lost it back to Kyle Fletcher. And then before that, it was like Dustin Rhodes, who won it out of nowhere, basically. Kyle Fletcher, you knew, was on the path to win it eventually. Adam Cole, when he won it, you kind of figured he was on the path to win it eventually. Daniel Garcia, you figured he was on the path to win it eventually. So, like, those type of people are typically in that range. You'll see when they start to ascend to that. There's no real, like I said, there's no real, I don't know if this is even a thing anymore, like it used to be. It used to be, especially with WWF, you know, there's a path. And even somewhat to WCW too, there was a path. Like you would win, maybe you'd do a tag team championship, or you would win the Intercontinental title. And once you won the Intercontinental title, that means you're on your way a lot of times to the main title, or at least a main title feud. That's not to say that everybody does that, obviously, but that usually was kind of seen as the thing with a lot of people, that when you win the Intercontinental, that means you're on your way. Once they introduced European, it was that. Like there seemed to be a kind of title progression, right? That you're like the champion of the mid-card, now you're the champion of the main event, or whatever, champion of the company. There's no real title trajectory in AEW. I guess I can't really say the same for WWE either, like it used to be, because it can go kind of either way. But with that being said, I don't think there's a way to predict, like with TNT champions, because it could be anybody. Did you think Ciampa was going to come in and win it right off the bat, and what does that mean? You know, so then you don't know who's going to be in the match, and with something like a TNT title, you don't know who it could be, because it could be anybody, because there's no hierarchy, basically. So that being said, my pick was Tommaso Ciampa. The winner ultimately ended up being, very surprisingly, Kevin Knight, who the night before had just lost the Trios Championships that they had just won back at Revolution. Was it Revolution? Yeah. Which they had just lost previously, like the week before, that they had just won a few weeks before. Those Trios Championships are moving. So there's that. Oh, and they added that match as well to the card. I want to say there may be one other one that I didn't pick because I didn't even know his name. It's probably the next match, actually. Next couple of matches. But the person who won the TNT Championship Casino Gauntlet, Kevin the Jet Knight did not see it coming. And it looks good on him. Let me tell you. I've said this before. I think Kevin Knight is going to be really big once he kind of finds. I think there's something about him that still kind of feels like, I don't know if he believes it yet. But they're definitely doing or maybe he needs to embrace it. They're doing the pseudo, he's going to be a heel. He's going to be a heel. He says stuff sometimes, it's like, and he has been saying stuff here and there that's like, man, dude's going very kind of cocky, but a low-key cocky. When he's because a lot of times you'll get cocky in a baby face way, and it comes off kind of endeared, and it comes off like, oh, okay, yeah. And then other times, it comes off as you come off as a heel. So he's really borderline. Had a defense against Claudio on Wednesday, and afterwards he's saying, oh, we lost the trios championships, and Speedball, I don't blame you. It's okay. Don't you hang your head. I don't blame you. I was like, who said you did? And commentary kind of didn't say anything about it. I'm like, I think they're planting the seeds, and they've been planting the seeds. It's low-key going to happen. He's definitely going to be a heel. But good on Kevin Knight. Obviously, I got that one wrong. But there's no way to pick those a lot of times anyway. There's no rhyme or reason a lot of times. They just kind of do it. Next up, for the women's championship, we had Tekla taking on Jamie Hayter. Again, it was exactly what I figured it would be. A good match with some story behind it, and a good win for Tekla to establish her as champion. She also, she had a back and forth with Alex Windsor on Dynamite, which is actually very entertaining. Just off of Alex Windsor is like, you got fired from Japan. And she's like, I did not get fired from Japan. Okay, I got fired from Japan. That type of humor always is hilarious to me. And then they had the match on Collision last night. Of course, Tekla gets the dub, which of course she would. And we're moving on within the women's division. Not sure who's next for her, but big things on the horizon. Then we had Moxley versus Will Ospreay. And again, I need to go back. I need to write these down because I don't remember who I picked. But Go Home Math absolutely leaned itself to Mox winning, because Will Ospreay pinned Moxley on the go home for the show. So I was like, well, yeah. So Mox is probably going to win. If it wasn't my pick, it should have been. And of course, Mox got the win. Because again, Will Ospreay got his pin on Moxley in the 6-man. It was the 8-man, I think, from Dynamite that week. So of course that was exactly what you would imagine it being. Still a great match nonetheless. Ospreay hit 4 or 5 hidden blades throughout the match, but Mox did Mox things and gave him paradigm shifts and death riders till he didn't get up anymore. I've seen a lot of people kind of saying, well, what was the point? Will Ospreay should have won, and he did. I've seen criticism that I always see when it comes to AEW shows. The other criticism that normally happens here, people talking about how long AEW pay-per-views are. This one was long, but it didn't feel long for some reason. It didn't feel as long as some of the other ones. A lot of those matches, there are still matches that could have happened elsewhere, but it still felt like kind of breathed. There were none that were like, why are we doing this? Perhaps the next match that I'm going to talk about is the one that you could have said that about. But even in that, it just wasn't really. Next up, we had, for those trios championships that just changed hands the night before, They lost those titles on Collision, and were the dog to the Dogs, and the Dogs were defending against Roger Strong, Orange Cassidy, and a mystery partner, who of course turned out to be Kyle O'Reilly. Got the wrong Kyle. And of course, after a great entrance, the very sitcom live studio audience entrance for the conglomeration, which was hilarious, they then went on to beat the Dogs for the Trios Championships. I think Gabe Kidd got hurt. I watched most of this match. Something was happening. I think my mom called or something. So I kind of got distracted somewhere in here with that. But still, from what I saw, great match. You know, kind of I say great match, kind of run of the mill for these trios matches and what you get there. But good to see Kyle back in the picture. And like I said, we got new trios champions, so that's always good. And then our main event, Kenny Omega, MJF. Huge match. Love it when they do special entrances to make those huge matches feel that much more special. You had Kenny and One Wing Angel. You know, it was given a lot of the Shawn Michaels Undertaker parallel a little bit. Kenny never, Kenny never presented himself as like this ultra religious god, blah 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 blah. And I guess you can say the same for MJF. Their dynamics are a lot different than Shawn and Undertaker's were, but the God versus the devil thing, MJF leaned very much into it with his entrance. The match itself was amazing. MJF, I've seen like some takes here and there on MJF, and it's always all over the place. Sometimes people are like, oh, he's not this, he's this, and then when he does, people are all over the place when it comes to MJF. And I don't think I've ever landed one way or the other. I'm like, on the mic, he's pretty good, pretty decent. He hits a lot of times. A lot of times it's kind of low-hanging fruit. You know, a lot of times it's kind of redundant. He kind of, But one thing that cannot be denied, he is 100% one of the most adaptable wrestlers in the game. Because he can do anything with anyone and still inject his MJF-ness into that. He had an amazing Texas death match last month at Revolution, despite very much not being on the indie deathmatch shit, as he likes to say. He just went and had what could be considered a 5-star classic with Kenny Omega. Even though the gist of his character is not wanting to work, not wanting to actually wrestle. And then he went out there and hung with Kenny Omega. He can do anything with anybody. And he did that here, picking up the win over Kenny Omega. Like I said, in a great match. Kenny, you can say Kenny is taking a step back. If you want to say that, that's cool, that's fine, and it's probably true. He's still better than like 90 to 95% of the people actually wrestling now. Still that good. But again, MJF comes away with the win. I definitely picked that one as well. And then that leads us to Dynamite. Before the main event, they catch up with Darby. They say, Darby, what are you thinking now that you won this match? What's next? I'm thinking like, yeah, we're going to double or nothing. And then Darby goes, Dynamite this week is in Seattle. And had I known that, probably would have put all this together. But this week is in Seattle, and I trained right up the road. So if I'm going to challenge for the title, Seattle feels like the place. Now, we opened Dynamite, MJF showing up, saying no one's heard from MJF. Apparently there was like an online interview thing where he's like, I'm going dark. cutting off my socials, cutting off my social media, my phone, I'm going dark. So when he shows up to Dynamite, Renee's trying to tell him, like, hey, Darby has said he's cashing in his championship opportunity tonight. And just like, wait, what? What do you? Darby's in the ring. MJF comes out. Nope, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this. Yada, yada, yada. Darby cuts this promo. Darby's very emotional. Darby's actually crying. Very emotional, very hyped. The adrenaline has got to be on 3,000 for Darby at this point. And I was like, I saw somebody else somewhere mention it would make sense for Darby to win the title in Seattle for the shock win, especially this week, because it's WrestleMania week, because the eyes of the wrestling world are probably going to be on WWE. What way could we steal some of that conversation? Change the title to Darby, no less, who was apparently very polarizing in just in general. And I never really even knew that for some reason. Apparently Darby's very polarizing. And watching, so between that theory and me saying, I'm looking at Darby MJF for Double or Nothing. Then I'm looking and I'm like, what if both of those things happen? What if Darby beats MJF tonight for the title? Shock win, hit, people are talking about it, the wrestling world's talking about it. And then we get MJF versus Darby at Double or Nothing, but it's the other way around, that Darby is the champion and MJF is the challenger. And we give MJF the title back, basically. That makes sense. I can see that being a thing. Give Darby like a quick little run, because I don't know if he needs to be like, this needs to be like a long-term run, but a quick run for Darby I think would be cool. Like kind of the Mick Foley thing again. And when he cuts this promo crying, I'm like, oh, I think we're doing a thing. The night goes on. It's almost main event time. Tony Khan basically makes the match, hey, it's going to happen in the main event. And on the way to the ring for the main event, Darby runs into Sting. And I said, oh, we're definitely doing the thing. It's happening. Hometown, crying promo, Sting, call it. So the match starts. MJF hits him with a low blow while Aubrey's back is turned. He goes. The whole point of this too is the headlock takeover thing, which has been a constant in their feud, or in their history, I should say. It's not really a feud, but in their history. And Darby promised that he was going to beat him with a headlock takeover. So after the low blow, MJF's going for the headlock takeover. Darby pushes him off, almost hits Aubrey. Aubrey turns their back. Darby with the low blow. Then Darby with the Scorpion Death Drop. And then Darby with 4 pillar to post counter coffin drops. And then a headlock takeover. 1, 2, 3. Darby Allin is your new AEW World Champion. Good on him. Absolutely good on him. Happy to see it happen. Could have happened to a nicer guy. The roster comes out. Sting comes out. Congratulations all around. If you are old enough to remember Lex Luger beating Hollywood Hogan for the WCW Championship right before, I want to say it was Road Wild, I believe it was the event. Very similar vibe there. Which again, I think it's a short reign. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. He deserved it. Hometown pop. All the reasons that this works is why it works. If you have an issue with Darby, the only thing I've ever thought about with Darby is like, I feel like the belt's gonna be really big on him. That's a big belt. It's gonna be big on him. It's gonna be big. If you ever seen Ricky Morton wearing that ridiculously large belt, Battle Royal Championship that he won from like JCW or something, wherever it's from. It's like, I feel like that's how it's gonna look on Darby, but I could be wrong. That's the only complaint I've ever had about Darby Allin. So, or as champ, Darby Allin as champion. I've seen people say, "Oh, he's not the guy. He can't be the face of the company." Blah 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 blah. Man, whatever. And again, if it's a short reign, what's the harm here? And that is where we are now. Where does that take us for AEW for a Double or Nothing? I'm not really sure. I've seen some reports that he has to go off and MJF has to go off and film a movie or something. He's taking some time off. Maybe that's the case. Maybe not. Remains to be seen. If he does, and that's not our thing for Double or Nothing, there's still some other things that we could do there are still just as huge. I can imagine Tommaso Ciampa put a challenge out on Dynamite as well, saying whoever wins the main event, I'm watching, you're going to have to deal with me. I can see that being a match that happens maybe on the way to Double or Nothing, just a defense for Darby to say that he defends the championship. I think that would be a good one. Kyle Fletcher's hurt. Andrade probably may get a match. If it's not MJF at Double or Nothing, I'm not sure who it is, actually. I'm not really sure who it would be. But there are options. There are options. So, and that is what happened on Dynasty and a little bit of what happened on Dynamite. Now, let me make sure I don't miss anything else. Of course, Willow beat Camille. I know I talked about that. What else did we get? Of course, I mentioned Tommaso Ciampa took on Desmond Xavier, made his challenge to whoever wins the title match. Kevin Knight, Claudio. Kevin Knight retained. Will Ospreay, Hechicero. Just throwing that out there. I knew that was going to hump. Because Will Ospreay is Will Ospreay. Hechicero is one of my low-key favorites. I really like Hechicero since I've discovered him. He has a very creative submission style in a way. It's like combining kind of the luchador aspect of things with this weird submission thing that I don't think I've seen much of. Really a fan of Hechicero. That match, of course, hit. But Will Ospreay got the win. Then you have Mark Davis again, monster of the Don Callis family, coming out and hitting Ospreay with that pile driver, which of course is big news with the neck. That's the thing. I think we talked about a lot of what happened on Dynamite. Camille and Willow. Yeah, so we talked about a lot of Dynamite anyway. Collision had a few notes that I'll bring up just kind of before we get out of here. Why is it not on here? So the biggest thing I think coming out of Collision, for me to talk about at least, is there was a Pac versus Leo Rush match. And it's just my thoughts on the Leo Rush character, Blackheart character. I'm not really sure what it is. It's creepy. It's weird. I don't understand it yet. I need to see more of it. That's all I'll say for now. I just need to see more of it so that I can understand it. Because right now, I don't understand it. It's a little weird. It's a little, I want to see how it plays out. I want to see how it affects anything else going on in AEW. So right now, it's just it's just creepy. I'm just like, oh, it's just Leo Rush being creepy. So we'll see what actually comes out of that with him. And then explain. I kind of do need explaining to me, how do we go from crew to this, all of a sudden? It just feels feels a little out of nowhere. What else happened on Dynamite? On the Collision last night. We got Tekla and Alex Windsor. Of course, Tekla gets the dub there. We had the Conglomeration versus the Lethal Twist, which is the Swirl and Jay Lethal. Really good match there. That wasn't the main event, though. Mexico. So I think I covered most of the most noteworthy things in AEW. Again, first match made official for Double or Nothing. Okada versus Takeshita. Sign me up for that. Oh, before we get out, well, I'll get around because I'm still in AEW and I do that on close. So, that sign me up for that. And we got a new champion in Darby Allin. So we'll see where this goes going forward. Big way, though, to snatch a little bit of attention from WWE in WrestleMania week. Because anytime you can do that, it's good. When all the eyes are, like I said, when all the eyes are on the wrestling world during WrestleMania week, this is the time to do the big things one way or the other. Huge move to put Darby over as world champion on that show. Because one way or another, you're going to talk about it. And if you're stealing that headline away, you know, because there's things we talk about for WrestleMania too that we probably will talk about tomorrow, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for now, that is it. That's a wrap on AEW for the week. Like I said, they threw on Collision because why not throw Collision on Thursday instead of trying to go up against WrestleMania of all fucking things? So absolutely understand them doing that. I didn't do shirt of the day today, but I can real quick. You know, it was a little light work. You know, since I'm in the field, since I'm in the mode, I can't do it all the way. But you see it, 2016 WrestleMania in Dallas. I was in the building for WrestleMania 32. I didn't have a seat. I'll tell that story another day. I should do a series of or just a show about my WrestleMania experiences. That'd be fun. So, but nonetheless, again, thank you for tuning in on this day one of Talmbout Rasslin WrestleMania edition. Again, you know, I got the graphics to go with this too. Yep, I'm gonna do that too. So again, thank you for tuning in on this day one of WrestleMania weekend. The way that I'm doing it, at least day one of Talmbout Rasslin WrestleMania weekend. One thing that I could talk about here. One thing I've said before, I have been mentioning that I did not know how I was going to watch WrestleMania or where. It has come to my attention that they are showing WrestleMania in a movie theater here in Memphis. That very rarely happens. It's kind of hit or miss, and you kind of got to check and see. WrestleMania is being shown. If you are in Memphis and you can hear my voice, WrestleMania is being shown at the Paradiso Theater. The Paradiso Theater, which is on Poplar Avenue, if you're not familiar, and it's probably one of the better movie theaters here in the city. Definitely like the main one, I think. That everybody, I think it's the only one with IMAX. Though WrestleMania is not being shown in IMAX. However, WrestleMania will be shown at the Paradiso on both nights. Starts at 5 o'clock. Go to malco.com to get your tickets. Come on out, join the party, because from what I've seen from the seating charts, there's a good amount, especially on night one, there's a good amount of seats sold, enough that it's going to be entertaining. Normally when I have gone to shows, especially like AEW, it's not a lot of people there. It's probably why they stopped doing it, or at least one of the reasons. And I think a lot of the projects a lot of people don't know. WrestleMania is a little different. It's big. I bought tickets for both nights. Night one seems to be a lot more sold than night two. That could change, but I think a lot, you know, you got casual people, so maybe they're just like, oh, yeah, I go to Saturday, but you don't know it's 2 nights. So, so if you're at the sound of my voice, if you're in Memphis and you want to watch WrestleMania somewhere, go to malco.com and get your tickets. Come on out, let's make it a party. I don't have much for a party, but the more people are there, the more it seems like being kind of in the show. So I'd love to see everybody come out. Talmbout Rasslin. I'll be there. I don't know what I'm going to have on, but I'll be there both nights. I'll probably have flyers, because why not? I should definitely have flyers, shouldn't I? I'm going to try to get that done. Or something like a flyer. Don't judge me if you see me, because I might have to do this on the fly. So these might not be the most flyerish of flyers, but you'll see, nonetheless. So if you hear my voice again, malco.com, get your tickets. Paradiso Theater, 5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. I will be there. Hopefully I see you there, or I see whoever there. And if you see me and you know me, hey, come speak. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know you subscribed. Don't come see me if you have not subscribed, though. Subscribe first. Like if you see me like, oh shit, that's him, go subscribe and then come speak. Do that. But man, we're gonna have a good time. You know, again, it's WrestleMania. The build has been the matches, but it's WrestleMania. And to be within the midst of wrestling fans in any shape, form, or fashion is always a good time. So again, thank you for tuning in, talking about wrestling. Day one of WrestleMania weekend. Because it is, right. I will be, and this works out again, it's going to work out fine because SmackDown is tonight. I can cover SmackDown on tomorrow's show, plus all the things that have kind of taken place during WrestleMania week. I'll give my predictions for night one and night two. And we'll go from there. So once again, I am your host, The Untouchable. I am your host, The Untouchable J.R. Atkins. Thank you for tuning in and talking about wrestling right here on the Black Fitness Network. Make sure you tune back in tomorrow because we're going to do this again tomorrow for day 2, WrestleMania weekend. And until next time, we are out.